It's the same Twitch link that you used to watch Love or Money on.
So you could have chocolate.
Watch Love or Money on.
You could have a marshmallow.
I have an
You could have
ad.
a graham cracker.
Yes,
Until you actually melt them.
Yeah, I can hear everything that goes on in Ethan's thing.
No, I think because I didn't have it muted.
That wasn't me.
I didn't have it muted. Oh wait, just kidding. I didn't have it muted.
I need to mute it on my screen too. There we go.
It doesn't look. Oh, there. Are you changing it now, Steve?
Yeah, I'm mixing it up. It should look fine right now.
Yeah. It doesn't look.
Oh, come on.
So the Zoom call, like I made it for. I can make the Zoom call a little bigger. I mean,
All right.
I think it's okay. You tell me. I'm not touching it anymore.
Am I frozen or have I just not moved?
No, you're not frozen.
Everything seems good to me, like, because as long as I can hear everybody, that normally means it's fine.
All right.
Did you send it in the pals chat?
Let's go. Oh,
That.
deep. Nice.
What are you talking about, Kurt?
Marlins game, bro.
Okay, apparently that didn't send the link, but, you know. I'm going to tell Jared, because he wanted to be on an episode.
You want to watch or be on it?
Not to be on it right now.
I didn't know Weisberg was on this episode.
No, I think he means Meiselman.
Yeah.
Oh, he's on this episode?
No.
Oh, he wants to be on an episode. Steven Adams just got undercut.
Is he breathing still?
He's breathing, but he's on the sideline with all these trainers around him.
Dude, the sun's coming out of nowhere.
What a bitch.
3-0 in
Yeah.
the
3-0.
Alright.
It's a good day to be a Suns fan.
Nope.
Saturday won't be a good day to be a Suns fan though.
Why?
Because the Heat come into
Because
town.
they're gonna lose the arena that they've all been playing in. They don't come to town. Heat are already in town. No one's coming into town. No one's leaving town. Actually, some people are leaving town soon, but
Oh,
Dennis Schroeder left.
face knock.
Dude, the Raptors look really good.
I'm not worried.
could make anything, they would have beaten the Raptors.
Literally.
I think you guys should be worried about the Raptors and the Bucks.
I wouldn't be
Worried about the Celtics. Only worried about.
Guys looked good.
Yo, Bam bodied Tice and they can't guard Bam. Like I don't. Yeah.
Bam's got to learn how to hit some more consistent free throws, though. He looked great though yesterday against Boston, without Jimmy.
The offense could potentially flows better without Jimmy, but Jimmy obviously has the ability to create his own shots.
Dragic did you guys get any info on Dragic?
X-rays negative.
Okay, it looked bad in hindsight.
All right.
Healthy amount.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to episode 2 of 638 Sports Talk. Once again, I'm Alex, and today I'm happy to be joined by the one and only Matt Hartman and El Prez himself, Ethan Curtis. Nice to have you guys.
Thanks for having me.
How we doing, everybody?
Doing well, and let's get right into it. We're going to start off by talking about college football. We got some big news today. University of Connecticut, Uconn, they announced that they would be suspending their football program for the 2020 season over coronavirus concerns. And we also got the Big Ten schedule released today. So now all 5 Power 5 conferences have released at least their plans for the upcoming season. So let's go around and let's talk about who we think these plans might help and might hurt the most. Let's start it off with Ethan.
Well, I really think it's going to be helping the top teams in these respective leagues. Let's start off with Alabama. They're going to have more bottom tier teams. Obviously, I'm not exactly sure who's going to be getting from the East and the West, but regardless, they're still going to have their game against Arkansas, Mississippi State, as well as possibly games against Vanderbilt and Missouri. Also, you look at the Big Ten, you're going to see obviously the West is significantly better than the East. So depending on who gets pulled over and where, I think it's really going to help those top teams.
All right, Maddie, what do you think?
I definitely have a lot of agreements with Ethan. I think that it could potentially hurt the top tier teams because a lot of their games, those big time prime games where they get, 50, 60 points, it's not going to happen nearly as much, I don't think, which is better for fans. I think there's going to be an increase in competition, though. Definitely more competitive because it's all conference games. So I think it's going to be great to see that it's all conference games and how it's going to play out this year.
One thing I'm interested in seeing is, especially out of the ACC, is how Notre Dame plays. Obviously, they're going to go the full ACC schedule. Obviously, it's Clemson versus everyone else in the ACC every single year. So definitely, that's definitely going to be a bigger challenge for Dabo down there. Definitely see how that plays out. Curious how that goes.
I think this could really hurt the Pac-12 because the Pac-12, we mentioned the ACC and the Big 12 are allowing teams to have one non-conference game. The Pac-12 is not, and the Pac-12 generally gets very disrespected and is regarded as a weak conference. So the fact that you look at the top teams, Oregon last year was considered a potential college football playoff team. Even though they had lost to Auburn, people still thought they were a very good team because they played Auburn competitively. So now those top level Pac-12 teams aren't going to get that chance to potentially play that other Power 5 school. So I think it's really going to hurt that conference. And I think along those same lines, it's going to help the SEC. It's regarded as a top conference. And you see teams that might lose one game or maybe even one game and the conference championship. I could see potentially maybe getting in over a one-loss Big 12, one-loss Pac-12 champ just because the conference is so much more respected.
Well, one thing I'm especially interested coming out of the Pac-12 is definitely if they are just seeing how the whole dynamic is going to work, whether they actually end up playing. And especially you mentioned it, other than Oregon, we see Utah. I think they came a game short last year, but regardless, other than that, I don't see the Pac-12 making much of an impact regardless. Obviously the Big Ten in Oklahoma, them in Texas, they're the top teams there. So where they stand in regards to, like you mentioned, one losses, if they beat each other, meet again in a conference championship, that always weighs in the committee's decision.
I'm also kind of excited to see how a lot of the big time players go about their year because I know for college basketball, a lot of players are electing to stay, not go for the draft. I definitely want to see how a lot of big time college football players might potentially do the same because it's not a full season for them, even though they're getting 10 games. I want to see, I'm just going to use Trevor Lawrence, for example, see if he stays for another year after this shortened season, and especially with the virus going on there.
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, I think this could majorly affect the draft and draft prospects. I mean, we haven't even begun to talk about that. Virginia Tech's Caleb Fairley, one of the top corners coming out of this year's draft. He's opted out of the season, and I'm definitely expecting more players to follow suit with that. We definitely saw with Florida, Jacob Copeland, Kadarius Toney. They hinted on social media that they could. Jacob Copeland he said on his Twitter, health over family. Obviously, he didn't confirm what he's going to do for the season, but definitely a big thing to keep an eye on as the season gets closer and closer.
Especially if the season gets delayed. They say they want to start on time, but realistically, you have to expect that the season could go into potentially well past the new year, not just the 1 week. And, these top draft prospects might not want to risk getting hurt so close to the combine, so close to the draft. So that's another thing that you have to consider.
Right. I mean, and obviously these schools they came out today and they said they're honoring all these scholarships, but the more I think when you get into the nitty gritty of it, I think one of the biggest effects will end up being the draft. Maybe the draft ends up being shortened. Maybe that itself gets pushed back. Obviously, the combine. I mean, there's so many dominoes in place. Like, they don't know how it could fall out. And even if we do get to the college football season itself,
I'm even thinking that there's a possibility that it might not even happen. If more players are opting out, you know, it just might not happen. You got to worry about the safety. A lot of schools are going strictly online. So just a lot of these different factors can definitely play as a result in the entire season as a whole, not just the draft. And I think it's definitely, I definitely think that there's a good chance that it might get canceled. I mean, I personally don't believe the NBA or NFL season is going to happen. I think the MLB season will get cut short just based on what's going on. There's definitely a lot of factors and a lot of ideas that need to go around and see what we do for the college football season.
definitely.
Well, assuming there is a season, the College Football Playoff Committee just recently said that they're going to push back when they release their final rankings. Do you guys think that they should stick with the 14 playoff, assuming this season carries on? Do you think they might need to adopt a different format, given that that most leagues are going to be going on in conference? Anyone have an opinion on that?
I just for this season, I think it'd be fun to just go back to no playoff and just have like the BCS national championship game. You want to play the least amount of games possible, I think, for the college football, but still get the revenue they're getting. I don't think the 18 playoff should be at all considered this year. It's just an idea that popped in my head, but I just think the postseason should be a lot less time.
I don't know about that one. I mean, thinking about how the other leagues have started to work out, I mean, obviously the NBA brought in their expanded somewhat of a playoff system. The MLB, they have an expanded playoff because of a shortened season. I mean, we're having, obviously, the SEC is going to have the toughest schedule. These teams might play a tougher schedule in conference than because they don't have these out-of-conference games. I think you almost have to have an expanded playoff because I think that's one of the only things that would more like satisfy the playoff committee and a lot of these teams. That way you can have that late season competition and you can really truly see who the best of the best is. I mean, obviously all these preseason, not the preseason, the opening games got canceled. Oregon and Ohio State, or excuse me if I'm not getting the matchups wrong, but I know Tennessee, Oregon State,
Oklahoma,
and Ohio State, they were all supposed to play interconference games, all got canceled. So I think, like I said before, you almost have to have an expanded playoff.
I think I've always been an advocate of an 18 playoff, and I think that especially this season, I think you should take the 5 conference champions no matter what. I'm a believer that if you win a Power 5 conference, you at least deserve the shot at a national title. I think this season, especially without those non-conference games to really separate those teams, I think that'll be very important. So I say you take those top 5, those 5 teams, and then leave it up to the committee to choose the next, I say, 3 best teams. And that way, I think you get an 18 playoff, and you're guaranteed that pretty much any team that has a shot at the national title, that deserves a shot at least, is going to get that shot. And I think this season that would be a good point.
I'd say the top 5 teams, SEC runner-up, Big Ten runner-up, and probably just another SEC runner-up. Because I mean, when it comes down to competition, I think that's something that you really have to look at, especially if you're only going to go 8 teams. I mean, I'm a big fan. If you're going to go 8, why not go 16? Or if the more just for the fact that you won't have that out of conference play. Obviously, that's a crazy idea to go to a 16-team playoff. But like I said, just to have that competition aspect of the conferences that late in the season, I think is something that would satisfy the committee.
And I also think that it's going to be really interesting to see. I look at some of the awards that might get handed out this season. The SEC, Burrow, I think, and Tua were the exception, but the Heisman really gets, inflated by, repping Tua, fins up. The Heisman is really based on like stats. So playing a lot of SEC conference games, you might have a really good SEC player not put up the stats as someone in the Big 12. Do you think, voters for the awards might have to weigh that when they consider?
I definitely think they have to weigh. I know, especially don't get me if I'm wrong, let me know. Like Pac-12 and Big 12 are more pass-heavy teams, so the quarterbacks could definitely get more stats, and especially in an SEC battle when there's more competition, their stats could not be nearly as good and that they're playing more games. I'm not really too invested in the college football realm, but I just know like Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma is a Heisman candidate right now, and he's playing all Big 12 games. So I feel like he'll have way more stats than such as Trevor Lawrence, who's just playing all SEC games. Definitely more competition. We'll have to be more careful in that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just to touch off on that. I mean, I think when it comes down to the awards, I think competition and who's playing who is definitely going to be the biggest factor when it comes down to it. Maddie definitely alluded to it. Rattler's stats and all these Big 12 quarterbacks are always going to have inflated stats, and that's just how it is. And I think that on a year-to-year basis, they do a good job outweighing that. For example, I mean, just a couple years ago, Tua ran away with the Heisman, but the committee, even though Kyler was in the Big 12, they still gave him the Heisman just because he was so much better. So I think the committee does do a good enough job weighing competition versus actual stats.
All right. So we can move on from college football. I think that was a good discussion. Now, three of us big basketball fans. So we're about a week into the restart, into the bubble. Let's go around. Let's take maybe someone who's surprised you so far in the bubble, someone who's disappointed you, a prediction for what might happen the rest of the way. We're about a quarter of the way, a third of the way through the seeding games. Maddie, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so I was looking at some stats, and there's only 3 undefeated teams left in the bubble, and we're only through 3 to 4 games. The only one that wasn't surprising to me was the Raptors. 2 undefeated teams that I was surprised about are the Pacers, who are without their all-star Sabonis. So obviously TJ Warren's been a huge talk with scoring-wise. And of course, I'm going to go a little hometown team, but the Suns are actually 3-0 with 2 big wins against the Clippers and the Mavericks. That's very surprising. And those are the only 3 teams that are undefeated. Like you expect, the Lakers, the Clippers, possibly the Bucks. I mean, 2 of those teams are under 500 right now. So those are definitely some surprises. I think the bubble itself is a great concept, and it's gone really well for the NBA. It's definitely gotten fan interaction with the virtual fans. The bubble, no one's been tested positive. And also looking at the stats, the only winless teams are teams that you would expect. The Kings and the Wizards, they're both last place in the conference. And the Grizzlies, who just lost Jaren Jackson Jr., so that's definitely a big blow to them. I don't see them winning more than 1 to 2 games. But that's just my stats. Or that's just what the standings are. My prediction is I definitely think the Grizzlies will probably not wind up making the playoffs at all, let alone the 9 seed. I think there will be a playoff game right now. I'm thinking the Blazers will lock in the 8th seed for the West. And I don't want to be biased towards the Suns, but I think them or the Spurs might get that 9 seed. I don't think the Pelicans are going to be able to make that 9 seed. And in the Eastern Conference, I think the Wizards have to win out in order just to be the 9th seed, and they're not going to do that, being 0-4 already. So I think the Eastern Conference standings will stay as is. Maybe the Nets and the Magic might switch spots. The Magic are losing by like 15 right now to the Raptors. But yeah, that's what I've seen so far. I love the bubble. I love watching all the games, and NBA is my favorite sport. So.
All right, Maddie. First off, you need to hold the brakes on the Suns. I'll give you Devin Booker's shot. That was a beautiful shot.
He definitely got fouled.
Be over him, fading away. Kawhi coming over, great shot. It's the Suns. Hold your brakes. Obviously, someone who surprised me, we all know it, TJ Warren. I don't know what's happened since the bubble. But 53, 34, 32 in his first 3 games, and the Pacers are looking good. Fortunately, they don't have Sabonis down the stretch. I think that's going to hurt them.
And Brogdon, I think, is hurt too.
Obviously Sabonis, they're all-star, though. I think that's just such a huge loss down the stretch run. So he's definitely been a big surprise. Obviously, if we're going to give a little hometown, Kelly O, since he's entered the bubble also. He's been great for the Heat coming off the bench, obviously inserted into the starting lineup with Jimmy Butler injured, hopefully for just this game tomorrow against the Bucks. Hopefully we get him back for this weekend against the Suns. And yeah, I definitely agree with Maddie. Definitely some not the bottom teams not competing well, such as the Kings and the Wizards. Definitely not too much of a surprise. But one team I am interested in seeing is the Raptors. Obviously, they've been a very well-coached team the entire season. So I think they're always a scary team out of the East. And one thing I do want to just throw in there, they've been an under-the-radar team all season long, but the Oklahoma City Thunder, they are a scary team, and I don't think they're a team anybody in the Western Conference wants to play. They were just up 20 on the Lakers, currently up 79-66. So they're looking like they're going to take that one against LeBron and Anthony Davis. So, like I said, I think they're definitely a scary team to look out for.
I think Maddie mentioned them. The Blazers are playing really well in the Western Conference right now.
Yusuf Nurkic has been huge for them.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to lock up the 8 spot. I don't think they're going to be the 9th. I think they'll be the 8, where they only have to win 1 game in the play.
And I'm not saying they're gonna beat the Lakers, but it's in the first round if they get there. But I don't think the Lakers are gonna be able to cakewalk right through them. They're a high scoring team. They can really shoot the ball. And another team that can really shoot the ball, the Houston Rockets. I mean, James Harden, Russell Westbrook have been putting points like crazy in the bubble.
It amazes me how every time I watch them, I just get more and more fathomed at the idea how teams just can't defend them. And it's not like that these teams don't know what they're doing. It's just at the end of the day, they just can't defend them just with the sheer high volume of shots that Russell Westbrook and James Harden are putting up. And it works what they do. And it's just Mike D'Antoni has found a great system that works. PJ Tucker at the 5. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. And they definitely, I didn't believe it at first, but definitely watching these first few games with them, I definitely think they have an advantage against teams like the Mavericks, because teams like the Mavericks and even the Jazz, they can score points, but I don't think they can just keep up with somebody like the Rockets.
And every shot is either a 3 or a layup. They take like no mid-range shots. And that's what the numbers say are the most efficient shots.
Yeah.
There was a game I was watching yesterday. I think it might have been a Spurs game. There was over 100 threes taken. That's just crazy to think about today's NBA. Like, I remember when I first started, like maybe 2006-07, the finals, or the Western Conference Finals between like the Spurs and the Lakers, were like 72-71. And now you see teams shooting 53s a game. It's crazy what the Rockets have done. I mean, Harden's obviously a top 5 player in the league. Westbrook probably top 10, 15. Just crazy to see like the evolution of the game, especially.
And I said the last episode, I'm going to still stick by it. The Raptors going to come out of the East. I would
definitely be more scared of the Celtics. I think Jason Tatum is a few. I mean, I think most people agree, but Jason Tatum's a future superstar in this league, and I think he might be better. I think he's the best player on the court in the series, and so yeah, I would give the edge over the Celtics just against the Raptors. I mean, obviously the Bucks, not sure where they're at right now in terms of what they want to do with Giannis just down the stretch at the end of the season. But obviously, come time for the playoffs, they'll be ready and fine.
I still think the Clippers, I think they match up very well. You saw it in the first game back. The Clippers were shorthanded. They were minus Lou Williams, Pat Bev, Montrezl Harrell. They still gave the Lakers a game. I think the Clippers match up very, very well with the Lakers. And honestly, I just haven't been sold on the Lakers again in the bubble. Maybe they're just resting because they already got the number 1 seed. But both the Lakers and the Bucks, you underestimate how hard it is to turn it on and flip that switch back on after taking it chill for 5 months.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
there are teams that it's. Oh, you want to go first, Kurt?
No, I mean, I was just gonna say. I mean, yeah, but I think teams have shown in the past. I understand they haven't played basketball for a long time, but still, teams are. I think they have the ability, just on the contrary, just to flip it on and off. I just think they're taking Giannis. They just know they don't need him these last few games, and like I said before, come playoff time, I think they'll be ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. I want to see let's get some predictions in. I mean, so you guys are basically saying Raptors or Celtics. I definitely agree with that. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucks win, but I think the Raptors will come out of the East. They have a little more experience in late game playoffs, with the conference finals and winning last year. Obviously they lost Kawhi, but they basically have the same team as they did last year. And Siakam has turned into a star. Gasol is playing a little better. Lowry's less of a baby, still is obviously. And they got OG Anunoby to defend those great players like Giannis and Tatum. I think it's going to be Celtics Raptors in the Eastern Conference. No, that can't happen. Just kidding. I think the Raptors will come out, or the Celtics. And then on the Western side, I like the Lakers, but I think the surprising team I like is the Jazz. The Jazz have looked very good during this time. They just got a big win today. I know with the whole memes with Rudy Gobert starting the coronavirus, that kind of stuff, he's been looking really good. Mitchell's a future All-Star for sure. Joe Ingles has shot the ball. I would be that's my like sleeper pick of the playoffs, the Jazz. But overall, I think the Clippers might end up in the West. So I got a Clippers Raptors final.
Hey.
I think Celtics Clippers. So we all like the Clippers. It's interesting.
All contingent upon everyone returning back. All
But I mean, even so, let me ask you something. I mean, just because at the end, obviously, there's so many other pieces. But when in a Western Conference Finals, would you rather be having PG and Kawhi or LeBron and AD? Where do you stand on that?
If it depends. Like I think I said last episode of this that the Clippers match up very well because LeBron can't guard both Kawhi and PG. Obviously, that you just can't. And I think Anthony Davis locked down very well by Montrezl Harrell. So if Montrezl Harrell is there, I think you have a really good opportunity where you're going to have either like Danny Green, Kyle Kuzma, Dion Waiters, one of those guarding either PG or Kawhi.
Good since the bubble started, though.
Clippers will exploit that.
Okay. Yeah. No. I definitely agree with you. I mean, I like I said, I like the Clippers too. But yeah, I mean, Kuzma's been good. He definitely is going to have to step up. Like Lakers haven't looked amazing since the return, so I think he's definitely, if they want to go deep into the playoffs, he's going to have to be a big piece.
We also haven't talked about the Nuggets a lot. I know that they're very limited on the roster. They're without Murray, Barton, and Harris, which are three of their starters. And though they got smacked by the Heat, that was a great game by the Heat. They've looked pretty good, led by Jokic and Millsap, and players like Monte Morris are stepping up. I don't know what the condition of those players are. I don't know if they're actually playing, but the Nuggets look really good. I don't know if they're going to be playing or not. Those guys.
I'm glad you brought up the Nuggets, Maddie, because I think Michael Porter Jr. is
actually. Oh yeah, for sure.
I think he's a future All-Star in this league. I think when he got drafted to the Nuggets, I think it was one of the best situations for him. Obviously, for a player developmental standpoint, and he obviously didn't have to come in right away as a high impact rookie. And obviously, he had a huge double-double the other night. I think 35 and 13.
He had 30-something today too.
Yeah, he had another great game today. So I think he's a future All-Star in this league.
A bowl.
Well, yes. I mean, the Nuggets just a huge, lots of young talent around them.
I think the Nuggets are going to be a force in the next couple of years for sure. Especially with like LeBron retiring, a lot of the other players are getting old. That's wide open. The Western Conference, give it 3-4 years, and I think the Nuggets, led by Jokic, can do some damage.
Speaking of looking ahead, and we got 6 games tomorrow on the NBA schedule. You guys are both betting men. Anything that you guys disclaimer here, 638 podcast is not responsible for any wagering losses you might incur, but any helpful tips from our 2 betting experts here on maybe something from tomorrow's games.
I guess one thing that my bad, Maddie. Just one thing, because I saw the matchup and I understand they played today, but I think maybe they'll get back at it tomorrow. Lakers Rockets tomorrow, obviously a big game. Line hasn't come out yet, but whatever it is, slam the over. Just because, like we talked about it earlier in the show, the Rockets, they just put up so many shots, and obviously they make lots of those shots. And I think the Lakers are going to want to play this game a lot tougher, and I think they're going to have to keep up with the Rockets. So definitely, let's slam the over, boys.
Honestly, like I love always bet the over, of course, but a lot of unders have been hitting recently, especially in like early game situations. The Lakers have not really. I don't think they've hit. I think they've maybe hit 1 over so far in all of their games they played. But looking at tomorrow's game, I mean, honestly, I don't want to be a fair weather fan and only root for the Suns, but the Suns against the Mavericks, they were plus 340, one money line. And against the Clippers, they were plus 300 and one money line. They're plus 130 against the Pacers tomorrow. They're plus 3.
Against TJ Warren.
So I definitely would say hit the over at 228 for that game. But my big surprise, I would bet moneyline Kings tomorrow. They play the Pelicans, and they're at plus 149. I think Fox has been showing out really well, and I feel like finally, the Kings look like they're about to get eliminated, so they may want to, ruin some hopes of other teams. I think that's going to be my guarantee bet. I would say Kings moneyline tomorrow.
I like that pick. Obviously, baseball is always interesting these days to bet on, but just throwing it out there for throwing the betting in there. The Yankees and the Cubs, I think, bet the hot teams. So definitely throw those in your parlays. Just a little better's tip.
Maybe a little electric bucks right there.
Better today, game 2 going on right now. Judge still hit a home run though, of course.
He's
Judge
what?
looks great.
He's
40 and 60.
he,
You think he get 40 home runs in 60 games?
No.
I doubt it.
It could be close.
I would think that he'd get tested after that, and not for Corona.
If he gets 30, that'll be a really special season.
That would be incredible.
So we mentioned we have some Heat fans. We've got a Suns fan on here. What do you know? Those two teams are going to play on Saturday. So let's dedicate a little time to a Heat Suns preview. All right, we'll let the losers go first. Maddie, what's your prediction? Looking for in the game. We all know what your prediction is.
I can talk a lot about the Suns, and I would love to do a Suns Heat debate, just an episode just like that. Obviously, if it's not apparent, I'm not the biggest Heat fan. I haven't been since, LeBron era. Obviously, Suns, I think, are going to win. They've been looking great in the bubble. I think everyone can attest to that they have looked definitely the most surprisingly good team in the bubble. They beat the Mavericks, good team. They beat the Clippers. I mean, they beat the Wizards by double digits, which isn't saying much. Booker has looked great. I could go on and on about each player. A big surprise, though, I could see Butler getting not as much action. I think Mikal Bridges has proved himself to be a future first-team all-defensive player. He blocked Luka 3 times, and he got the game-winning steal yesterday against the Clippers. He's going to be a huge defensive force. I think that's going to limit Butler. Obviously, the Heat have too many shooters, and the Suns are not
shooters.
Heat are great shooters, great shooting team. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think the Heat will probably end up winning, but I would not be surprised at all if the Suns won and slammed the money line.
Okay. So thank you, Maddie. I couldn't agree with you more. The Heat have too many shooters. So I'll just go. I'll start off by saying this. I think. How about we put a little wager on this game? A little friendly wager. I think the loser of this game should have to wear a jersey or shirt of the other teams at the next fraternity event of some sort. They have to come out looking like an avid fan, a super fan almost.
I don't have any Heat gear though. Like, do you have any?
I don't think that you have to worry about that.
Yeah, I was thinking about like a wager where I said in a group chat with my friends, I wanted to do it never really went through, but I want to do I'd pitch in for a Pals tab if the Heat won on Saturday, but if the Suns won, I would think everyone owed me a fat slushie at one point or another in the semester.
Denying my friendly fandom wager?
Oh no, I'm accepting that for sure because I think you'll look good in an Arizona 8 jersey.
Oh, that's okay. Well, just really quickly, and just because you talked about Mikal Bridges locking up Jimmy Butler, if that were even to be close to the case, hopefully we get Jimmy back. Obviously, he's not playing tomorrow against the Bucks. Hopefully, he's there for the game against the Suns. Even if he's not worried one bit. I think the Heat are just they've got a lot of pieces right now that are really working for them. I think since the bubble entered, we already mentioned Kelly O. Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero have just been money from behind the arc, and it's just and Jay Crowder has been playing incredible defense. Andre Iguodala, those two additions at the trade deadline. Obviously, Iguodala was the main piece, but Jay Crowder, both of them have just been very high impact players and pouring down the stretch. And I haven't said it himself, the most improved player of the year, Bam Adebayo, and it isn't even close.
Oh my.
I think what he did against the Celtics the other day, just really taking control of a Heat offense and taking control of a team, that really big win for them. And I think it just was we've seen his potential, but that was just another glimpse of just to the superstar he will be.
Yeah,
what's your take on this, Klein?
He said Bam said that he lost sleep after the Toronto game because he felt he wasn't aggressive enough. Well, he more than made up for that aggressiveness yesterday, getting to the free throw line a bunch. I think the Heat offense, even if they don't have Jimmy, they showed that they can get a nice ball movement, Dragic can help penetrate. Bam can also penetrate, as a point center. And if you leave the shooters open, they're going to make you pay. The Heat are the top 3-point percentage team in the league. They're sometimes frustrating to watch because it seems all they do is chuck up threes, but welcome to the NBA in 2020.
Yeah.
But if you're going to leave the Heat open over the course of 48 minutes, they're going to make enough shots to beat you. They might all come in the last 6 minutes of the game, but we got shooters.
Kelly
I'm definitely excited for Saturday.
In the fourth quarter, it was incredible. I mean, it's just the run that, obviously not just him. I mean, you can go on and on about just the sheer runs, but yeah, I just think they have enough spacing, the way they space the floor and just put up the shots that they do.
Definitely going to be a good game. I mean, you guys talked about each player individually. I can do the same. I think by Saturday we should have Aaron Baines back because we do not know how to rebound as a team, the Suns. Ayton he's a 20-10 player, but those 10 rebounds are not pretty. He needs to be more aggressive for sure. And our backup centers are Saric and Kaminsky, and that's not going to be a team that can easily beat the Heat. Hopefully Aaron Baines is back to bring in some aggressiveness. I'm excited to see Cam Johnson.
I'm always curious to see what he's
Oubre?
Yeah.
I do not, I believe he's healed, but I don't think he's going to play unless necessary. I mean, this team, what we've been doing right now without him, are 3-0. So, maybe late, if we're a must need to win, I wouldn't be surprised if he was playing. Cam Johnson has stepped up. I mean, he was picked before Hero, and I thought that was an awful pick at first. We traded to pick Cam Johnson while we could have at 6 taken a bunch of players. I really wanted Brandon Clark. But Cam Johnson has shown to be a sharpshooter for this rookie class. He's looking really good, making big-time plays and becoming more aggressive. And one player that surprised me for the Suns is Cameron Payne. We signed him a couple weeks before the bubble. I was like, why is Cameron Payne on the team? He is going to be the backup point guard for the next couple of years behind Rubio, and I think that's a great backup point guard in the NBA. He can shoot the ball. He's a lefty. He's aggressive, and he's had a lot of veteran experience. I think he'll look good against Dragic, especially because that's probably who he'll be playing most of the time.
Well, no, I was just going to ask, realistically, what are the Suns' chances of what's the uphill battle that they have again to get to the 9 seed play-in game?
So yeah, we're about a game out of the 9 seed. We're tied with the Pelicans and half game or 9 game, maybe a game back of the Spurs and Blazers. We play the Pacers. We play the Mavericks again. We play the Heat. We also play the who else do we play? I think we played the Sixers.
A 3-game playoff against the 8 seed. Is that how we're doing things these days?
It's looking like we're gonna have to win 2 in a row against the 8 seed for sure. If we make it. I wouldn't say our odds are great, but if you told me before the bubble that we'd be even this close through 3 games, I'm very happy with how they're playing this year. They're looking great. Booker, is proving to be definitely a top 20 to 30 player in the league as of now, maybe even higher, depending on how he does in these next couple games. I just want to see how we do tomorrow against the Pacers. I don't know if Warren's probably going to wind up going for 40 or something, but
former Sun TJ Warren.
Yeah, I think
Can you remind us what the Suns got in exchange for the hottest player in the NBA? What did the Suns get in that trade?
You want to know what they got at the time or what they wound up with?
What did they get at the time?
Oh, we got just cash. That cash should wind up turning into Ricky Rubio, a re-signing of Kelly Oubre, and definitely a little more cap space to trade for Dario Saric and Cam Johnson. So obviously TJ Warren's a hot player. He didn't fit our scheme well. He's been a 20-plus scorer in Phoenix since he's been drafted, but he just never really could fit in with the team. That's probably management and coaching errors. So don't get me wrong. It sucked that we had to trade him away, and he's thriving now. It hurts. But I think we've been able to overcome that. And we have Rubio, who's a point guard finally. We haven't had one of those since Steve Nash.
Obviously like that.
Goran didn't want to be in Phoenix. We have a point guard that wants to be in Phoenix.
That's not his problem. That's your guys' problem.
Oh, yeah, and I'm blaming that completely on the front office and the old management.
Okay.
But Rubio is the first point guard that truly fits in and enjoys being in Phoenix since Nash.
I call sketch, but it's okay.
Dragic didn't want to be there, neither did Bledsoe, if you could tell by his Twitter.
I think TJ Warren, just because the player he is, he's going to be coming for blood tomorrow just because. And then, when he plays the Heat, I think, Jimmy Butler's going to do his thing and size him up.
Jimmy Butler for that game.
Yeah.
That's the only possible explanation.
Yeah, he's healing. He's like, TJ's looking pretty good. Let me just go beef up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you the Suns have had great draft history, drafting Dragon Bender at number 4 and then trading up for Marquise Chris at number 8. We've had the Morris brother, Robin Lopez. Like, obviously our future's set with all those draft picks. And TJ Warren, finally one that looked promising. And, we trade him away for probably like $600K because Robert Sarver's an idiot and is very cheap.
I love how he talks sarcastically. It's just like he says it's so good. But the Heat and their draft picks, they've done very well, I think, recently. The Bam and Hero one. So.
Oh no, the Heat are looking great. Very promising team. Obviously, I'm just not a fan of the Heat based on the biased fans that I've come to know and love these last 5-6 years. So that's what. But I do have to say, I have to admit, the Heat are a good team. They're very qualified to be the 4th seed in the East of what they are. Can't say anything more, but Hero looks really good, and I like Nunn.
About the Heat is when these games where they win against the Bucks and the Celtics, but then they lose at home against the Hornets and the Bulls because that's just the way it works. But
the level of their competition.
That's the same thing with the Suns. We'll lose by 20 to the Warriors without Steph Curry and Thompson, and then we'll shock the world and go back to back and beat the Mavericks and the Clippers, like something like that.
All right, we're gonna move into the closing part of our show. If you didn't join us last time, if you're new to this, at the end of the show, all of the panelists will talk about one sports story that we're really interested in or that we feel like we want to share. It doesn't have to relate at all to what we've talked about. And it's time for my little thank you to the panelists for coming on, giving them a chance, their time to talk. Ethan, why don't you go first?
Well, we kind of briefly mentioned it in our betting segment, but we didn't get a chance to talk about baseball today. But I just think, obviously, just staying at home in the fandom, but what the Marlins are doing right now, obviously a very depleted roster, obviously playing the Orioles today, but they could be 5-1 by the end of the night. Their next two series consist of the Mets and the Blue Jays. So I think those, at the end of the day, those are very winnable series for a team that's got momentum, a team that obviously has shown, and they said from the season start that they want to win. Obviously, they were hit with that Corona hiatus in the after the first series, but I definitely think they're a team that not yet. I think they're a force to be reckoned with, but obviously in this shortened season, you came in, anything can happen, and I think this is just pure proof of anything can happen. And Marlins have gotten off to a hot start before recently, and in a shortened season, like everyone knows, you got off to one, and there's no telling what can happen. Oh, and just really quickly, up 2-0 against the Orioles right now. So, like I said, not the greatest of competition. Sorry, Max Penn, but yeah.
The Marlins haven't given up a run in a week and a half.
Yeah, I mean, wait, my bad. Yes, I was right. It's the middle of August. It's summer baseball, and the Marlins are first place in the NL East. So. Who thought I'd be saying those words in January? But here we are in 2020.
All right, Maddie, your turn.
Yeah, well, this concept obviously may not be popular, but you gotta give it up for the WNBA. They've done a successful bubble as well. Obviously, not nearly as much recognition, with all the debate with female and female athletes in sports, but there are a couple big stories out here. I've watched maybe one or two games because nothing else is on TV, but I don't want to definitely disrespect the WNBA. Big news is that Ionescu, she's supposed to be the next big thing, first overall pick, really close with Kobe and the family before he passed away. She hurt her ankle really bad, and I don't know how long she's gonna be out for. It is a grade 3 sprain. The Liberty, which I guess is the team she was drafted by, they haven't won a game. The two teams at the top of the WNBA right now is the Storm, who won last year, led by Sue Bird and what's her name, Stewart. So they're 4-1. I don't even know who's on the Sky. They're in first place, but I gotta give it up for my favorite team, the Phoenix Mercury, 3-2, led by the mammoth of the man, Brittany Griner, the GOAT, Diana Taurasi, and of course, one of the best looking players in the league, Skylar Diggins-Smith. It's fun to watch some successful sports teams in Arizona. We haven't seen those in a minute. So, the Mercury are above 500. The Suns have won 3 in a row. And the D-backs have only lost 8 of their 10. So, good day to be an Arizona sports fan. But I really have to commend the NBA and the WNBA for the bubble. They've done a very good job. I think it's the only sport, maybe or in the NHL, that will have a complete season. The bubble concept is great. It isn't really a problem for anyone. Everyone's getting tested and a lot of no positives, I think. And, they're being very cautious with the efforts, with leaving the bubble. I know Lou Williams, the 6th man of the year, probably left and he had to miss 10 days.
Oren's the 6th man of the year.
I know Schroeder is out for the next 10 days because he just had a kid. So I think the precautions and safety measures the NBA has done has definitely been doing definitely a great job, and should be definitely how sports in the future, especially if these are the times, should go about it.
Definitely.
Before I go, we got a couple questions from the audience members. So I believe, Ethan, you said you like the Celtics to come out of the East.
Yeah.
A question from Steve the Sleeve asking, is Taco Fall going to receive minutes in the bubble?
Oh, who doesn't love some Taco Fall action? Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get minutes just based off the way the Celtics work, but I don't see why he shouldn't. I don't think their big man rotation that they have with Tice and Cantor currently works. So why not maybe go Taco Fall, maybe give him maybe they help better on the offensive end. But yeah, I love Taco Fall as a player, great character from what I've seen on Twitter, what he does. But yeah, I don't think he's going to get minutes, which is unfortunate because I'm not fans of Tice or Cantor.
I like Tice. I think he's been promising so far. 2nd-year guy out of Germany. He's looked decent. I absolutely hate Cantor. Top 3 least favorite player in the league. Just hate him. So I would love to see Taco Fall get some minutes. I definitely think he needs to develop more. Obviously he came in, with a lot of audience and, exposure because of his height and, his name Taco Fall. I think he needs to develop more, and I think no other program than the Boston Celtics, led by Brad Stevens, have a lot of draft picks they develop. It could be a future good team, especially led by Tatum. So I think give it like a year or two, Taco will probably get active minutes. He's a little more experienced.
Yeah, but I think his biggest issue is that I don't think he fits well with the league. Obviously, you got to be a shooter at some point. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he really isn't that great of a shooter, so that really doesn't give them the ability to space the floor that the Celtics that they want to do, with just attack with either 2 guards and 2 wings, kind of a set. So yeah.
Shot.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And Reese Witherdew would like to know what is your best dance move? We've had a lot of time in quarantine to practice our dancing. So anyone want to throw out a dance move?
Well, I will say I personally haven't done it in a while, but when I was young, people say I was resembled Chunk from the Goonies, so to do the truffle shuffle. But I've got a little bum ankle right now, so I don't think I can stand up and do it. But in quarantine got me mad crazy, so maybe had to bust it out once or twice.
Yeah, I haven't really been focusing on my dance game at all. I've focused on my golf game. Never really played, but I'm learning how to play that. You can always be a trendy and say love sicko mode, where you see the shots that I took, wet like I'm booked, fall down to the ground, get mobbed by your teammates. But who knows? I'm not really a dancer. Well, maybe next semester you'll see me learn some moves.
And to answer that question, to quote High School Musical 2, I don't dance. Now going into Matt, a good segue into what I'm going to talk about for my sports story. PGA Championship, the first majors of 2020. It's been over a year since we had a golf major. That kicks off tomorrow from TPC Harding Park in San Francisco. It's been a long time since they hosted an event. They hosted the 9 President's Cup, where for those of you who just watched golf for Tiger Woods went 5-0 in that President's Cup. And he won a WGC event at this course back in 2005. Tiger got a good tee time. He's got a morning tee time tomorrow. then an afternoon tee time Friday, so plenty of time to rest his surgically repaired back. A couple names that I'm looking forward to watching. Webb Simpson, he won the U.S. Open when it was at the Olympic Club in San Francisco, about 2 miles away from TPC Harding Park. So I think he's a name to watch out for. Of course, Brooks Koepka, 2-time reigning PGA champion. World number 1, Justin Thomas. Rory McIlroy seems to be up there every week. And, of course, big, bulky Bryson DeChambeau. You know, he's whacking the ball.
Yeah.
One.
Hopefully he doesn't run into any fire ant piles this weekend.
Problematic. He does not like those fire ants.
Yeah. I'm glad you talked about the PGA Championship. I guess some more from a better standpoint, from a few names that I like. Definitely, I'm a big fan of Daniel Berger this weekend at 40-1. He's played pretty well recently. He tied for second last weekend at St. Jude Invitational. He did well, but he did get cut at Memorial. RBC, I know he placed third again. So I think he's definitely one of those low-key names you could find at a pretty good price.
Collin Morikawa, I think, had a streak of, I believe, 24, 25 straight cuts to start his career. Second to only Tiger Woods. He lost in a playoff to Daniel Berger the first week back. I think he got a win.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that definitely is someone you can get a great price at.
So, again, a couple names. Big time golf is back. It's a very exciting time for golf. After this, the playoffs are going to start. Then we got the U.S. Open. Obviously, no Ryder Cup this year. The Masters in November. So, big stretch of golf. And I think it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it should be an exciting weekend, fantastic weekend. I know Tiger, a lot of people wasn't sure what his plans were. So it's going to be exciting to see a lot of these big names back in action.
All right. Well, that's going to conclude this episode, 638 Sports Talk. Once again, thank you to Maddie. Thank you to Ethan. It was a pleasure having you on.
It's great. Go Suns, beat the Heat.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, when Maddie's wearing all that Heat gear, I think we might have to get him like the baby powder blue uniform, Klein. What are we thinking?
I think so. I think doesn't Jason Richmond, if you're watching, I think don't you have one of those powder blue jerseys? Make sure you got that up for Maddie to wear.
Wait, so if the Suns win, are you both wearing stuff, or is it just Ethan?
No, just me. That's it. I'm the one that's willing to put.
And do I get a spread here, or is it just money line?
Money line.
Okay.
If you're so confident in the Suns,
I didn't say I was so confident in them winning. I just said they have a great chance, and I think they've been looking good.
Okay, well that
I will definitely
confident to me.
Maybe I'll put you in a Booker jersey.
You're gonna have to tune in next episode. We'll get these results of these bets. Thank you guys for watching. If you ever want to come on and be a panelist, reach out to 638 Podcast, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.